merupakan fasilitator untuk program Pandai. Untuk kali ini, saya ingin mengajar anda bagaimana untuk menyertai kursus Pandai secara atas talian. Jom!
Langkah pertama, buka enjin carian seperti Google dan kemudian buat carian Pandai Open Learning. Lihat pada pautan paling atas sekali, kemudian klik pada program Pandai Literasi Digital untuk Komuniti. Selepas klik pada pautan tersebut, anda akan dibawa ke laman utama Pandai. Kemudian anda klik pada butang Join Now untuk menyertai kursus Pandai. Langkah kedua, pendaftaran. Pendaftaran ini boleh dibuat melalui Sign Up with Microsoft ataupun Facebook. Untuk lebih senang lagi, kita masukkan email, kata laluan dan nama penuh kita. Setelah selesai mengisi maklumat, jangan lupa klik pada ruang petak kosong seperti yang ditunjukkan. Kemudian tekan butang Get Start. Seterusnya, klik pada petak seperti yang ditunjukkan, kemudian tekan butang Join Program Pandai. Untuk bahagian ini, sila klik butang Next. Langkah ketiga, sila isi borang A dan B. Sila lengkapkan borang A dan B dengan klik pada bahagian seperti yang ditunjukkan. Setelah selesai melengkapkan borang A dan B, barulah boleh mulakan kursus. Kursus ini mengandungi 5 buah modul. Modul yang pertama, pengurusan maklumat dan komunikasi. Modul yang kedua, menggunakan inisiatif digital kerajaan. Modul yang ketiga, berurusan secara digital. Modul yang keempat, keselamatan dalam talian. Dan modul yang kelima ialah modul perpustakaan in a box. Untuk melengkapkan kursus ini, setiap modul terdapat video yang harus dimainkan. Setiap modul diwajibkan memberi komen di ruang komen yang disediakan di setiap modul. Langkah keempat, borang C dan borang maklum balas kepuasan pelanggan. Sebelum mengakhiri kursus, pastikan di bahagian refleksi bengkel untuk melengkapkan borang bahagian C dan borang maklum balas pelanggan. Langkah yang terakhir ialah sijil Pandai. Setelah berjaya menamatkan kursus, jangan lupa muat turun sijil Pandai dengan klik pada butang seperti yang ditunjukkan.
Selamat mencoba. Bye.
Hai semua, hari ini saya akan berkongsi tentang cara mendaftar e-pembelajaran Reading Seed dan langkah menyertai modul pembelajaran. Untuk langkah pertama, buka enjin carian seperti Google dan type Open Learning Reading Seed. Kemudian, klik pada pautan paling atas. Selepas itu, klik pada butang Join Now. Untuk langkah kedua, di sini anda akan diberi pilihan sama ada menggunakan Microsoft, Facebook atau akaun email. Tapi sebaiknya saya sarankan anda untuk menggunakan akaun email. Langkah ketiga, anda diminta untuk mengisi butiran lengkap sebelum memulakan modul pembelajaran. Pembelajaran ini mengandungi 12 modul. Setiap modul haruslah dilengkapkan dan anda juga harus membuka setiap audio yang disertakan dalam modul. Selepas habis setiap modul, anda dikehendaki untuk memberi komen. Untuk langkah keempat, setelah selesai semua modul e-pembelajaran, anda dikehendaki untuk mengisi maklumat penilaian. Akhir sekali, anda akan memperolehi e-sijil setelah selesai semua modul e-pembelajaran. Kiranya anda mempunyai anak berumur 3 tahun ke bawah, anda boleh menuntut Kids Reading Seat di mana-mana cawangan pustaka yang berdekatan. Anda dikehendaki untuk membawa sijil dan buku rekod kesihatan anak untuk tuntutan. Selamat mencoba!
Hai bapa semua serta permata hati anda yang disayangi sekalian. Sebentar lagi kami akan berkongsi dengan anda mengenai Kid Reading Seats. Little Readers Treasure Box ini direka khas bagi memupuk minat membaca di kalangan anak-anak seawal mungkin serta menyokong perkembangan awal.
Jangan lupa bersama saya Khalil Jarau dalam sisi Artistic Space.
Hai, jangan lupa memberi taksu dalam segmen Story Space.
Hai, saya Samar Yusuf. Jangan lupa saksikan saya di Sarawak Children Festival.
Sheep in the village, far from town. Don't forget to meet me in Virtual Sarawak Children's Festival 2021.
Lamin dan isterinya Salma tinggal di hujung kampung.
Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon to our speaker,
Jangan lupa
Ms.
bersama
Vera, all the participants and viewers of Pustaka channel. Okay, firstly, I would like to thank you, all of you, for making time on this beautiful afternoon to be with us for a health talk session on senior citizens with the topic Love Your Mental Health. Okay, so on this webinar, we will be focusing on common signs and symptoms of mental health struggles in senior citizens, and then as well as better ways to improve our mental health. To the participants and viewers, should you have any question on or thoughts on the topic, just leave your questions or inquiries on the chat box or the comment sections on the our Pustaka channel on Facebook. Our speaker will answer your queries at the end of this session. Okay, before we proceed to our session, let me introduce our speaker, Miss Vera. She is a Chinese Indian who was born and raised in Sarawak. She has experience in working with clients of various populations, which includes children, university students, adults, divorcees, domestic violence survivors, abuse survivors, and refugees. She has experience in providing psychotherapy on anxiety, depression, complex grief, post-traumatic stress disorder, and cognitive disorders, including ADHD, autism, and learning difficulties. She is passionate about advocating mental health to the general public and has provided numerous talks and training on various topics regarding mental health. She believes that everyone has their own story of struggles and deserves to heal from their pain. Okay, so without further ado, let's invite our speaker, Miss Vera.
Thank you, Izan, and thank you to Pustaka for having me to share about mental health today. So let me share my screen. Let me know if the screen is showing. Okay. All right, can you see my screen, Izan?
Yes, clearly.
Okay, thank you. All right, so welcome everyone this afternoon for joining us. I am Vera Pillai and I'm from Colombia, Asia. And today with Pustaka Miri, we're talking about mental health with the series Health Talk for Senior Citizens. And and the topic for today is how do we love your mental health? All right. Okay. So what we're going to be covering today is 5 main parts. So the first one is going to introduce about what mental health is. So before we want to love something, we need to first understand about it, right? So the first big part is actually to understand mental health. Second part is the signs and the symptoms. So what are some of the common signs of mental health struggle, especially in senior citizens? And then the third part is how do we strengthen our mental health? Now that we know what is mental health, how can we strengthen it? And in this part, we're going to learn how to love our mental health. So I'll be providing you some tips on how you can be helping yourself to have a healthier mental health. And then we will even be doing a short group activity together, a short breathing exercise. And then on to the fourth part, we're going to talk about mental health. For example, when we have friends or family that we know perhaps struggling with mental health, this would be a part on how can we be talking and how can we be approaching them to have this conversation with them. Then the last one is referral. When is it right to sort of refer your friend or your family out to seek a professional help? And I'm going to share some resources on where you can be seeking those help from in terms of mental health. All right. So without further ado, we're going to go into what is mental health. So before I start, I would like to find out from you guys. So if you guys can type into the chat box that you see on your screen, so click into the chat and then just type in, what do you understand about mental health? So perhaps just one word that comes to mind when you think about mental health. Okay, so Chris says peaceful, right? And stress. Okay, it also has anxiety. Right, low mood. Okay, so I'm seeing positive parts of the mental health and also some negative parts of the mental health. For someone who's struggling with mental health, go through stress, anxiety, low mood, or for someone who's not and has a healthy mental health would be peaceful, as Chris says. Right. Okay, so thanks for sharing your thoughts. So we're going to continue with the slides. So mental health is as important as our physical health. And we need to first know and understand our mental health before we can know how to love our mental health, right? And this is really the big part of this talk. So our mental health consists of, it affects three things in our life. First is our well-being. So if what kind of mental health you have, whether it's a good or a bad mental health, it will reflect in your well-being, in how you think, in your thoughts, how you feel, your behavior, and your social well-being. So how do you interact with your friends? How do you interact with your family members? That's where we can see it reflects how our mental health is. The second part on how it can be shown is our response. So when we go through different situations in life, when it's difficult, for example, or especially during this pandemic, how did we respond to this time where it's very uncertain, we don't know when it's going to end, and a lot of time we have to make sure that we're keeping ourselves safe and people around us safe as well. How does it make us think? How does it make us feel and act? How do we respond when we're in the situation? So depending on your mental health, you're going to respond in different ways. And I'm going to talk a bit more later on. So mental health also reflects our underlying struggle. So what kind of struggle you're going through inside of you? So for example, how do you handle stress? Or how do you relate to people around you? Or how do you make choices in your life? So mental health, if you see it, it brings effect to different parts of our life, our personal perception, our thoughts, behavior, feelings. It also affects how we deal with different situations. It also affects how we have conversation or how we interact with other people around us, right? So mental health is actually a big thing if you look at it that way. And we're going to go even more into understanding what it has. Okay. Right. So what does a healthy mental health look like? Just now when we asked about what is mental health, some people shared it's peaceful, some people shared it is stressful or in anxiety or low mood. And those part of having the anxiousness, the stressful feelings, those come under the, when you're struggling with mental health struggles. But what would it look like for someone with a mental health that is good, that's healthy? So with the healthier mental health, we're acknowledging that we have strengths. So there are things that you're good at, you got hobbies, there are skills that you are doing better than other people around you that's unique to you. There are also points of improvements, right? Or weaknesses where in therapy we call it points of improvement, things about you that is perhaps you're not that good at doing, but those are things that you can improve on. right? And to acknowledge that you're not perfect, but you have strengths, that you have things that you can focus on. The second one is your personal awareness. So being aware about how you react to situations, what usually goes on in your mind when something negative happens to you, something very shocking happens to you, right? For example, if you're in a car accident, for example, it's been a long day, and you're late for work and you have to rush to work, and you go into a car accident, what kind of thought runs through your mind? Is it negative thoughts about how chaotic life is, or is it wanting to deal with what is in front of you right now and take things one step at a time, right? So you are aware of it. There's no negative, there's no positive, but you are aware about how you're thinking and how you are affected by things around you. The third one is it helps you to also improve your relationships. Like I mentioned, mental health is not just about you, it's also about how you interact with other people. So it's also when you have a good mental health, it actually improves your relationship with people around you as well. The fourth one is that it helps you to concentrate better at what you're doing. If it's cooking, you concentrate at cooking. If it's gardening, then you concentrate at gardening. Whereas for someone who's struggling with mental health, may find it harder to concentrate on one thing, right? Where there's so many thoughts running, and one person might find themselves easily sort of distracted by thoughts that's going on around in their mind, right? But we don't see that when you have a healthy mental health. So what can we do to have that mental health, which is what we're going to talk about later on as well. And the most important thing is that when you have a good mental health, you're able to cope more effectively when you go through stress in life, right? We have the situation and we have how you respond to it. So when you have a good mental health, you have a stressful situation, but you know how to deal with it in a more hopeful, peaceful manner. So now we're going to go into what are the signs, what are the symptoms, how can we see and know these are the things that shows us that someone is struggling with mental health. Specifically, we're going to talk about senior citizens. So in this time, it's the pandemic, a lot of things, it's all about control. There's the number of the COVID cases going up. There is the restriction that is sort of tightening or loosening. It's a lot of changes. And then we have the interstate travel sort of let loose recently. So there's a lot of changes, and it's constantly, we have to adapt to the changes as well. So for senior citizens, this time has been very different, very difficult. And why is it? We're looking at, even without the pandemic, even without COVID, someone who is elderly may be struggling with perhaps memory loss or poor memory recall. It's hard to kind of recall what happened or what is it that you wanted to do. Perhaps you're also struggling with health problems, things, a lot of chronic pain problems, for example, and then high blood pressure, for example, and all of this is outside of COVID. Even without the COVID, this is something that we see is happening in the senior citizen role life, right? And all of this would oftentimes bring about a lot of depression or stress to the person's life. But now with COVID, even more so, there is the strict lockdown, and the threat of the illness, it affects about 80% of 65-year-olds and above, right? With the COVID, it's a high threat to people who are 65 years old and above, right? We also see that with this strict lockdown, with this high threat of the illnesses, there is the isolation where people would prefer to stay home. Older adults would prefer to stay home and be safe, but in the same time, they're isolated from their friends, so isolated from things that they could do usually with more freedom, right? As a result, a lot of sense of loneliness at home, missing their friends, missing activities they can do, and perhaps it would also bring up sense of or feeling depressed, or even having the clinical depression. Right? So oftentimes we go through something very difficult, and the first thing that comes to mind is this normal? Am I normal? Right? We always ask ourselves that, or am I okay? Right? So what is stress? What is anxiety? What is feeling sad or feeling depressed? So stress is a normal reaction when there is a new situation. As long as you're put in a new situation, and no matter how old you are, you will be adapting. And when we adapt, there will always be a sense of stress, right? So going to a new place, moving to a new place, staying in a new place, having a new environment, having different lockdown restrictions, all of this are new adaptation, and it will cause stress. So in that sense, it is a normal reaction because you're in a new environment. You're trying to look around you. Stress allows you to look around you and say, what is it that I need to be aware of? What is it that I need to adapt? And that process itself will bring that sense of stress. So it is a normal reaction. What about anxiety or feeling anxious? I'm not talking about clinical anxiety. I'm talking about the feeling of anxiousness. Is that normal? Am I okay? Well, anxiety feeling is a normal reaction when you are put in an unpredictable event, right? When you're not sure what's going to happen next, you have a lot of anxiousness, and our body is created to be that way. It makes sure to note down, to make you alert about any potential dangers, anything that may be threatening to your life, right? And so it's a normal reaction that our body prepares us to feel anxious so that we know that something in the environment is not safe and we need to protect ourselves. So it's a normal reaction when you are in an unpredictable event, right? And we can see that a lot during this COVID, where we're not sure when it's going to end. We're not sure how is it like, how life's going to be like, even after the whole COVID ends, right? And that unpredictableness may bring a sense of anxiousness. The last one is feeling sad. So is feeling sad okay? Is feeling sad normal? Well, it is part of our everyday emotion. We have so many emotions, and feeling sad is just one of it. When we lose something, when we lose someone, or we don't get what we want, we feel sad. And we can feel sad for ourselves, we can feel sad for other people. It is a normal part of us. It makes us human, right? But when is it not okay? When is it time where I would say, okay, now it's not normal. What you're struggling with, it's beyond what someone should be going through, right? So what are these struggles? What are these common struggles where it's not okay? So common symptoms of anxiety, we're going to look at the left side first, which is anxiety, right? So for some of the common symptoms of anxiety, we're looking at your heartbeat quickens, your heartbeat just starts pumping really fast. All of a sudden, usually very unpredictably, perhaps you're doing something supposedly peaceful, or you're perhaps watching the TV, for example. Suddenly you feel your heart beating fast, or you're sleeping and suddenly you feel your heart beating fast, right? And with that, difficulty breathing, you feel like your throat is tightening up, that you can't really breathe, right? Racing thoughts, so your thoughts is running really fast. There's this thing you want to do, there's that thing that you want to do, there's this thing that you're worried about, there's another thing that you're worried about, and all of this are racing in your mind that it's so hard to focus. And sometimes it even appears in your dream. You have scary dreams of scary things that you're afraid of. And the last is an intense fear or intense worry. It is no longer that just feeling worried, but it's so intense that it's affecting your relationship with people around you. And I'm going to talk a bit more about that later on. So I put anxiety when it's 6 months, if you see the blue circle thing here, right? And I put it there because if you've been going through all of this for 6 months, you actually, there's a potential that you do meet what are the criteria for anxiety disorder. But of course, I'm not asking you to self-diagnose. I'm just saying if this has been happening for 6 months, it's really a time to see a professional or a psychiatrist. And I'm going to talk about when is it? What is the duration like? When do you say that it's time to go and see a professional, clinical psychologist or a psychiatrist, right? And that's just that 6 months, that's just a guide for you. Next, we're going to talk about depression. So this is not just feeling sad. It's not just feeling depressed. It is beyond that, right? And if you've been going through any of these feelings that I'm going to talk about later on for 2 weeks, it's worth looking deeper into it. So some of the symptoms of depression, someone mentioned low mood just now, right? And that is one of the common symptoms when someone is struggling with depression, right? You feel really low mood. You can't feel happy. It's just hard to feel joyful, or you just feel empty. So that's a really low state of your mood, or really, really sad. Yeah. Second is low motivation. Perhaps you got things that you want to do, a long list of things, and you're finding it really hard to do any of it. You just can't finish it. You just can't start it. Start what you want to do on your to-do list, for example. We're also looking at your change in your sleeping patterns and your eating. So sleeping patterns, for example, insomnia is where someone cannot sleep well, and they sleep a lot less hours than compared to the average person. Or someone who is sleeping more than the average person, someone spending more time in their bed sleeping, right? On the other hand, we got eat. So in other words, your appetite would be affected. You're going through depression as well, right? For example, you're eating a lot more than usual, right? Or you're eating a lot less than usual, you just don't feel hungry. So those are things that are changing when you sleep and you eat. If those things are happening to you, that's the time that you may want to think about seeing a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Next is the feeling of hopelessness. There's no hope towards the future. What's going to happen in the future? What's your plan? Say next year or in the next few months. It's just hard to even think about it. The very deep sense of hopelessness we see in depression. And then we have worthlessness. They don't feel that they are worth. They don't feel that their life is worth it. We're also seeing poor personal hygiene. So when I say personal hygiene, it's like finding it hard to wake up from bed, finding it hard to brush your teeth, finding it hard to even go to the toilet or shower. And therefore, that's what we mean by having poor personal hygiene. So again, if you're going through all of this, is it then you are not okay? Is it then you have to start talking to a professional and see what is it that you're going through? So when is it not okay? I've summarized it to 2 big points. So the first one is if you've been going through any of the symptoms for at least 2 weeks or more than 2 weeks, right? Either you or people that you know, your friends or your family members, they've been going through it for at least 2 weeks or more than 2 weeks, right? So that's the first criteria, right, where it is not okay. The second one is when it badly affects your daily functioning. What do I mean by your daily function? 3 parts. First is your personal. So again, your hygiene, whether like brushing teeth, cleaning your room, showering, for example. Second is negativity. And when we talk about negativity, it's like you find yourself very agitated, very frustrated, easily angered when something happens or someone says something to you, or you think in a very negative way, or even having suicidal thoughts, having thoughts wanting to kill yourself, wanting to end your life, right? If you're going through this, then it is not okay, right? The second one is work. You find yourself having a lot of difficulty to focus at work, or you're becoming very forgetful on what you need to do. What is it you need to focus on? What is it you need to make sure that by the end of the day you complete at work, right? And that is affecting you. But previously it's okay, now it's not, right? So look into it. Social, we're talking about your friends and your family, and oftentimes we see that someone's going through the most common mental health struggle, anxiety and depression that I mentioned just now. We see a lot of withdrawal. The person starts spending a lot more time on their own, closing themselves in their room or in their house and not wanting to connect, not wanting to answer calls, not wanting to reply texts. And all of this are signs of someone who is not okay and perhaps struggling with mental health. So now that you know what mental health is, and what do you know some of the signs and symptoms of someone who is struggling with mental health, how can you love your mental health? How can you strengthen your mental health? So I'm going to go through some of the tips with you. So tips to healthy aging, and I put a acronym to it, CLABS, CLABS. So hopefully that is easy for you to remember, something that you can sort of take away from this talk as well, right? CLABS, CLABS. Okay, so C stands for connect. Stay connected to people around you. No matter how hard it is, make sure that you get someone that you can talk to, and identify who is it that I can trust, who is it that I feel comfortable talking with, and stay connected to that person. And be creative. It can be just video call. It can be video calls if you can't meet that person. The person's far away, for example, or in quarantine. Have video calls or phone calls. And why is it important? It's because it allows us to feel love, allows us to feel cared, allows us to feel that we belong to a community that is caring and loving, and that is really encouraging sort of perspective to help us to continue on, even though things can be difficult and you deal with difficult situations. So now on to L. So L is for lifestyle. When I talk about lifestyle, it's two big things. It's sleep and your eat, right? So all adults, generally the time for sleep is at least 6 hours, over to 9 hours per day, right? And why is it important? Is because sleep strengthens your memory. You're able to remember more. And for those of you who struggle with memory, it is important to make sure that you set a good time, a schedule, that you sleep at a specific time of the day and you keep it that. If you sleep at 10 every day, make sure that by 10 you turn off your laptop, your phone, put it aside, and then go to bed, right? And keep to a specific time where you sleep every day. And that's going to help you to not just strengthen your memory, but it also helps you to think more positively as well. We all know the days where we don't sleep well, we're tired, and we get grumpy and we get very agitated. Something happened to us, someone says something to us, and we get very angry. And we see that when someone don't sleep well, it's just hard to be positive. Whereas when you have enough sleep, you're energetic, it's easier to think positively. And research found that if you sleep well, if you sleep enough every day, you're able to think more optimistically, right? And the second one is eat, right? So eating healthily, things that are healthy for you, all in a balanced diet, no sort of fully veggie or fully fruit or fully fish, right? And just always a balance to it. So on to A. A is for active. So to keep yourself active. So it doesn't mean that if you're aging, then you are disabled. Instead, it is always about keeping yourself active, keeping your body active, and that actually is helpful in reducing the risk of chronic diseases. So what can you be doing to keep yourself active? The most common ones, going for a walk, for a jog, exercise, right? Or even going to garden if you like plants. Gardening is a good way to keep yourself active, having to water the plant, having to pot the plants differently, right? All of this is small ways that you can do even within your home compound. Even at this time, if you're feeling worried, you don't feel like going out, even within your home compound, things like gardening or exercising or jogging or cycling if you want to, if you have, right? So CLA first is what we talked about. We're going to go into the next, which is B and then S. So B stands for your brain, and it talks about how can you train your brain. So one of the tips to healthy aging, train your brain. Why is it important is that it keeps your mind sharp. It helps your brain to form, to build new connections. So it helps with your memory, it helps with you remembering, it helps you to be alert as well. So things like word puzzles, having crossword, having Sudoku, all of this, if you are interested and it's fun for you, I encourage you to continue to make time to do this because it helps you to train your brain and you are able to be more alert and you're able to think faster as well. And to the last one is S. So that is skill. So it's learning a new skill, no matter how old, how young, you can always learn a new instrument, a new skill, right? So perhaps playing the guitar or playing the piano or learning a new hobby, if it's say starting to want to learn how to plant things, learning to do gardening, all of this are new skills that's going to help you to have a healthy aging. And why is it important is when you learn new skills, things like learning an instrument, it actually helps with your hand and your eye coordination, right? It helps your brain to sort of connect your hand and your eye better, and you have a better coordination in terms of movements. It's also helpful when you learn new skill because you're also strengthening your memory, right? When you learn new things, you are remembering things, and when you're remembering things, you're strengthening your memory as well. And when you practice, it also strengthens it even more. And the best thing about this is that this skill, because it's very much to you, unique to you, is something that you want to learn very much on your own initiative. It is something that you enjoy. So it keeps you calm. It makes you feel relaxed, right? So it's not something that's forced on you. It's something that you really want to learn, something that perhaps you've always wanted to learn in your life. And now it's a good time for you to look into it. It's never too late to learn a new skill. So things like learning to play the guitar, learning to sing, even learning to dance, or learning to draw, right? So be creative and learn about as many skills as you can. And all of this are good because it helps you with your memory and makes you feel calm. And, it gives you a meaning to your life because you know that there are things that you can look forward to. So these are the 5 things to healthy tips to healthy aging, right? CLABS, right? CLABS, CLABS, right? C, connected. L, lifestyle. A, active. B is your brain, and then S is your skill. All right. The next big thing about your mental health is just knowing that as you age, what comes with age is also the richness of the experience in your life. And having a rich experience, it really comes with age. It really comes with growing and experiencing all of it that you have gone through in your many years in life, right? But how does all of this rich experience become wisdom? To make it, to make this rich experience you have in life into wisdom for you, it comes with reflecting on your life, reflecting about what happened, and then gain insight as in what are some of the strengths that you realize about you. Perhaps whenever there's something that happened wrong, or in the family, for example, people come to you for advice, for example. Now, what does that say about you as a person? Perhaps you're good with giving advice and people respect your advice, right? So these are your strengths that you need to sort of reflect on. Then you realize, and with that comes wisdom, right? So reflecting on your life, looking at what has happened, and then seeing what is your strength or what is your limitation. Perhaps there are things that you are not that good at, and you don't need to push yourself. And it's okay to ask for help from people around you, right? Okay, so we're gonna go with the next activity, which is a breathing exercise. Sorry, we're gonna do this breathing exercise together. So when we're going through a difficult time, it's easy to be caught off, and we are very much distracted by what we need to do, or what is it that we're worried about, or what is it that may have happened in the past that we regret, and we're thinking about it, we're punishing ourselves in a negative way, we're being very critical to ourselves. And all of this is very overwhelming and it's not helpful, right? Being critical to yourself can be helpful in a short extent. Maybe it helps you to push yourself more to do things, but in the long term, it's going to be very harmful for you, right? So what is something that can be helpful is to actually take a pause, even if it's just a few minutes, and to allow yourself to catch your breath and do some good breathing exercise. So this is one of it, where we focus on making sure that you are breathing and focusing on your pace, your breathing pace, right? So I have this picture up, and it helps to sort of guide you into how long you need to inhale, how long you need to pause or hold your breath, and then how long you need to exhale or release your air, and then how long you need to pause again before you breathe in. So we're going to do this exercise while following the picture here that you can see on the screen. All right, so if you're ready, then we're going to follow this exercise, and this is just to guide you on how you're supposed to breathe. You don't need to sort of stick to this as much as you can. Make sure that it is something that you're comfortably doing on your own time. All right. Okay. So whenever you're ready, sit comfortably, and we're going to start. Inhale, pause, hold your breath, and exhale. Pause, hold your breath. Inhale, pause to have a breath, and exhale, and hold your breath. Again, inhale, right, and pause, hold, then exhale, and hold, and then inhale, again, hold, then exhale. Right, so this is a short exercise, and if you're doing it with me, I hope you're feeling a bit more calm in your overall as well. In your body, you're feeling a bit more calm and slowing down. So even without this picture, I hope that you can also make sure that you sort of keep to a tempo that is slow when you want to do some good breathing. And it helps to have that pause, because it helps you to also not rush the breathing, right? So make sure that you have a pause in between inhaling and exhaling. Okay, so it's a simple, short exercise. It does not take a lot of time. And if you've been finding things very difficult or very stressful, this is a good exercise to just sit down and do that breathing. If you're finding it hard to fall asleep, and there's a lot of thoughts going in your head, this is a good and simple exercise to just do while you're lying on your bed. Take a pause, breathe in, pause, and then exhale, right? And do this for about 5 or even more than 5 times. Okay, and that usually would be sufficient to calm you down. Okay, so now we're going to talk about when is it and how is it like when we notice that we got friends or family struggling with mental health, and we want to talk about it with them, right? So how can we have that conversation? How can we start that conversation with them? Okay, so very short, it is first making sure that you take the time off, right? Making sure that it is where you have that private moment with this person, and make sure that you're not having it when there's so many people around you, around that person, and you're asking, how have you been? Or it looks like you've been sad lately, because all of these are very personal questions. So you want to respect the person's privacy as well. And the second one is asking open-ended questions. So what I mean by that is that you ask questions where people can share more instead of a yes or a no, or instead of giving a statement. For example, you see someone who's not feeling well, and you want to ask an open-ended question. It would sound like, can you tell me how you've been feeling? Right? Instead of, you seem a little down lately. So you seem a little down lately is a statement. So it doesn't give a lot of space for the person to share how they've been. Right? If someone said that to you, you seem a bit down lately. Perhaps you don't know how to reply, and it's okay to feel that way because it's a statement. It's hard to sort of answer it. Whereas when someone asks you an open-ended question, can you tell me how you feel, how you've been feeling lately? Can you tell me how you feel right now? Right? It's a question where you can't just say yes or you can't just say no, right? It needs more elaboration. So I encourage you to think about it. When you want to have this conversation with your friend or your family, ask open-ended questions that allow them to tell you more. The third one is to give them that share space. So that sharing space. What I mean by that is when they're sharing with you, it's actually a very personal thing that they're telling you, right? So you don't want to sort of force them to tell you more or tell you less, right? Allow them to share as much as they want or as little as they want, and respect that it is okay, right? As long as they are opening up to you. And even if they're not ready to share, they're not ready to talk about it, it's okay, because what you did just now in just asking that question shows that you care, shows that they matter to you, and that is like a good impact. It would mean a lot to that person. The fourth one is to listen carefully. So be there when the person's talking, to listen carefully, to hear out what the person's trying to say, even if you disagree. So try not to judge about what the person's saying, or think about, oh, you're just overthinking it. You're just tired right now, right? For example, you would be fine, just go get some sleep. You'll be okay the next day. Those are sort of how we want to help sometimes, but it may not be helpful. And what would be helpful is actually for us to listen. Be there and listen to what they want to tell you. The fifth one is to talk about coping. So aside from talking about the situation or the struggles, for example, they open up, they share with you that they're struggling with this, right? That's great. Talk about coping. How have they been coping? How have they been doing things to help themselves improve or to make sure they don't struggle as much in this situation? So those are good conversations that you have. And the sixth one is to know your limit. As the person who starts the conversation, you want to know your limits. So knowing a limit is if it becomes where the person shares that they have plans to harm themselves or harm other people, you want to know that it's a good time to sort of refer this person to see a professional, whether it's a clinical psychologist or a psychiatrist, to talk about what is it that they're struggling with. So now we go to the last part, which is referral resources. So when do we go from helping yourself to going to seek a professional help? It's when you hear yourself saying, I have tried everything I can, but it's still not working, but I'm still the same, or it's even getting worse, right? So if you hear yourself saying, I've tried everything I can, right? That's a good time to see a professional. So what are some of the mental health hotline that we have in Malaysia, and also some of the services that you can go for? So some of the 24 hours hotlines are Befrienders, so it's a suicide helpline. So if you have friends or family who are struggling with thoughts of wanting to end their life, wanting to kill themselves, this is a good place to connect them with. They are open 24 hours, any time of the day. You can call in and talk to someone who can calm them down. The next one is Talian Kase, which is set up by the government. When pandemics start, it comes in different languages. They can call in and to talk to someone, and they would gain some emotional support from anyone that they're talking to at the phone. The third 24 hours hotline is actually Women's Aid Organization, and that is specifically for people, for women who are struggling with domestic violence, for example, sexual abuse, physical abuse, different types of abuse like emotional abuse. This is a good place where they would provide you the help and the necessary help that you need. Okay, so Befrienders, we also have it in Kuching, in Sarawak itself. So this is a contact number that I put here. And feel free to screen capture at this time to have your own copy. The next one is Sarawak Women for Women Society. So this is something like the Women's Aid Organization, but it's specifically for the Sarawak community. Okay, and if it, so aside from hotlines, we also have mental health services. So if you want to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist, in Miri, we have Columbia Asia Hospital, which is where I am from. And then we also have Trifwell, which is a new sort of psychological center in Miri. We have it now as well. And then we also have Mental Health Association of Sarawak, that's based in Kuching, and they provide therapy as well. So now we're going to go into quiz time. All right, and now would be a good time for you to be actively typing into the chat, and we'll see who gets the answer right. So if you've been paying attention, there are a few things that I would like you to take away from today, and that's going to be part of this quiz. All right. So first, is it okay to feel stressed, to feel anxious, or to feel sad? So yes or no? All right, a lot of yes. Any no? Okay, yes. All right, great. You're right. So it is okay to feel stressed, to feel anxious, to feel sad. It is a normal feeling. As long as you're human, you're going to feel this, because this is part of the human response. This is part of the human reaction. This is part of the human experience. When is it not okay? I mentioned two big things, where if you're experiencing these two big things, it's not okay. So anyone remember what those two things are? Lillian is putting the thinking emoji. Okay, Miss Wendy says happening for too long. All right. Feeling stressed, don't feel like talking much, affecting work, eating, and sleeping pattern, having suicidal thinking. Okay. So someone mentioned it's been happening for too long, right? Miss Wendy, yes. So if it has been continuing for 2 weeks, that is enough for us to say it's been happening for too long. That's when it's not okay, right? And I'm seeing like affecting work, affecting your sleep pattern, having suicidal thoughts, less talking, insomnia. Okay, so most of you got it, and it really is when your daily functioning is affected, the second big part. Personal, as in your hygiene, or your negativity, or suicidal thinking, like some of you mentioned, right? And the second one is your work, where you find it hard to focus, as some of you also got it. It's great. And then, oops. Okay, and then we also have social, where socializing, where you withdraw yourself from people around you, or you find that this certain friend or this certain family has been withdrawing themselves from family gatherings or from answering calls or texts. All of this are sort of signs that someone is withdrawing from their social circle. Okay, all right. What is the healthy aging tip? So I listed a few tips. Okay, great. So Karen got it. CLABS. What does CLABS stand for? What is CLABS? Okay, someone say clapping? Or are you congratulating Karen? Okay, Lillian says C is for connect. Yes. So C is for staying connected. That's right, Belton, you got it right. Okay, and what is L? No, not yet. Not train your brain. It comes a bit later. L is for lifestyle. Yes, that's right. Healthy lifestyle. Okay, that's correct. So sleep and you eat, right? Making sure that you sleep at least 6 hours per day, and that helps you to stay more positive in your thinking as well. Okay, and also to have a balanced diet, of course. Oops, what is A? Okay, right. Yes, correct. So you guys got it right. No Sahida, Azuriati, Lillian, yes. So staying active, doing exercise or gardening, keep yourself moving around, keep your body active. Yes, you got it right. That's keeping active. Okay, on to B. What is B? No, Shafika says B is brain and S is style. What do you guys think? Okay, Azuriati, train your brain. And I think Effendi mentioned it just now as well, training your brain. Yes, it's keeping your brain active, doing things that challenges your problem solving. So things like crossword puzzles or Sudoku. Yes, so that's right. B is for brain and S is for skill, as some of you have mentioned. So what kind of skill? Can you guys give me examples of skills? Okay, Karen says dancing or crochet. Okay, nice. Gardening, knitting, drawing and singing. Okay, baking, Aaron, right? Rope skipping. Wow. Okay, I'm really bad with that. I always get myself tangled up. Okay, Azuriati is playing the guitar. Great. North Africa says anything that's calming. Okay, we have yoga from Azah. And then Brelton says, oh, producing songs. All right, nice. We have another baker. Nia Guan says baking. Linda says programming or coding. Wow. All right, so that makes you feel calm. That's good. All right, oh, we also have writing. Okay, yeah. That's a really good one. Writing down, and it's not just also, you can write down how you feel, you can write down your thoughts, but it's also being creative in your writing. If it's like writing a story that reflects how you are, or writing a poem, writing a song, for example. No, Shafika says dreaming. Okay. Relton is making poems. All right. Okay. It seems like you guys are even more creative than I am, have a lot of ideas for skills. And I can see that you're all unique. You have your own ways of doing things that makes you feel calm, makes you feel relaxed, give you a sense of purpose in life, something to look forward to, right? Okay. On to the last question. So how can you help someone struggling with mental health? Okay, Asa says listen, that's good. What else do we have? Broughton says talk to them. Yes. Listen and don't judge. Okay, yeah. So yes, you have to first talk to them. And then, like most of you said, you have to listen when they're talking. And like Karen say, not to judge, try not to judge. Even though you're coming from a good place, try not to judge. Okay, no, Shafika says talk in a quiet room. Yes, make sure that you have privacy. Yeah, Broughton, spend time with them. You have to build that relationship with them first, and they have to trust you. That's really important. That's good. No, Shafika says trying to be empathy. Yeah, empathetic, and sympathetic as well. All right, big words. Empathy is when you feel the person's emotion. Sympathy sometimes is also trying to understand where the person's coming from. Asa says, never ever say everything will be okay when it's not. All right, let them express how they're feeling. Yeah, we are tempted to say it's gonna be okay, you're gonna be okay, it's fine. And we come from a good place, maybe we just really want to make sure the person's gonna feel okay, but more often than not, it's going to make them feel like they're not heard or that you don't understand. Yeah. Okay, trying to be his or her friend. Don't compare our experience with theirs. Yes, yeah. When we compare our experience with theirs, we're going to be tempted to judge how they are going through it. So don't compare. Yeah, everyone is unique and everyone goes through pain differently. Everyone goes through difficulty differently. Okay, great. Let me see, the time is now 3:03. Okay, so you guys have really good answer. I only put here talk about it with them, but you guys have much better ideas as well. And it's really good that we respect the people that we talk to, especially on the topic of mental health. When it's something that's personal, you want to make sure that you get the privacy, you want to make sure that you get the trust, and you want to talk to them about it in a safe space. Right, and not to judge. Okay. All right. I'll end with the poem by Khalil Gibran on life. He's a Lebanese American writer about life. So half a life is a life you didn't live. A word you have not said, a smile you postponed, a love you have not had, a friendship you did not know. To reach and not arrive, work and not work. Attend only to be absent. What makes you a stranger to them closest to you and they strangers to you? The half is a mere moment of inability, but you are able, for you are not half being. You are a whole that exists to live a life, not half a life. Okay. All right, some of you read his book. That's great. Right, so that would be the end of today's talk. Thank you so much for listening and participating. It's been a wonderful session. I'll pass the time now back to Izan.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Vera. Okay, so we move to next session, which is a questions and answer. So keep your questions coming in the chat box or on the Pustaka channel and our social media, Facebook. But we already have some questions from the viewer. Okay, first question is, are drugs or therapy better for mental conditions?
are drugs or therapy better for mental health condition? It
Yes.
really depends on what kind of what kind of mental condition you're talking about. If that's something that you want to find out a bit more, a good place to start, I would say, is to talk to your psychologist, right? Sort of understanding a bit more about your mental health condition or struggle first, and then from there on, if it's discussed between you and your psychologist that perhaps it's good to take medication, then to go for it. Of course, the best treatment would be both together at the same time, taking medication while therapy. But again, it goes back to what is the severity of your mental health condition. Yeah.
Thank you. Next from our Zoom Q&A box.
Okay.
Okay. This may be out of the focus topic, as he or she said. Hello, Miss Vera. This may be out of the focus topic, but how do I overcome or reduce overthinking? I tend to think that people around me hates me. Whenever I sense a change of tone in their voice when they talk to me, I would I would think that they are mad at me for some reason, and I will always feel at fault. Any advice from you will be appreciated.
Okay. All right. Thanks for the question. To whoever who has posted that question, thanks for sharing about what you've been experiencing. I see a lot of awareness that you have about how people around you, how you're responding to people around you, and how you're seeing the people around you. And I think you got it right, that it's really going back to how we are perceiving it, right? You're saying a lot of overthinking that you're experiencing, right? So one of the helpful ways to reduce overthinking is actually to get to know the people around you. So making sure that you make time to know these people. Who are these people who you have these feelings of negativity towards, right? So make the time to understand them, and oftentimes, more than not, we're going to see that our negative thoughts going to be proven wrong when we push ourselves to actually talk to know these individuals. You're going to find out that, or perhaps if you think about it, there are people in the past where at first glance, you first saw them, you thought they're going to be very proud, or they're very rude. But as you actually have the conversation with them, oh, they're not so bad. They're actually a really nice person, right? So that really comes with allowing yourself to break out of that comfort zone, going to talk to them. That's one of the big things that would actually be helpful.
Okay, so next question. Okay, how do we as a junior, because we are talking about senior citizen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do we as a junior can detect the slightest symptoms on the seniors, especially for us who work closely with the public?
Okay. So if you're working closely with the public and you're a younger person, you're trying to understand a senior whether they're struggling with mental health, right? Okay, we're going back to the first two things that we mentioned. When is it not okay? Those are the two big things that you really want to look into. So how long have you been noticing that there's perhaps something that is making you think whether this person is struggling with mental health or not? What are we looking at is whether there's any struggle in their daily function. Again, there's three big things: the personal, the work, and the social. So what's the personal? It is, are they keeping their hygiene? Are they still able to sort of make sure that they clean after themselves, or they brush their teeth, they shower, they make their beds, right? Are they able to, what do they think about, how do they think about things or struggles, right? Is it in a negative way, or is there a sense of hope? Is there thoughts of them feeling like they want to give up, or they have thoughts of wanting to end their life, right? All of this are sort of red alarms that this person is really struggling with mental health, right? That comes with conversation with them. You really need to talk to them to understand. But what you can see is things like personal hygiene, or perhaps the negativity, like the irritability. They're very easily agitated. You see their mood changing very quickly. The second one is work, right? And perhaps senior citizen, not so much work, but perhaps in the way that they do things like, say, gardening, for example, or cleaning the house. Do you see that they're able to sort of complete it or finish the work? Small things like that, whether they're able to complete and focus on it or not. And the third one is the social, right? Are they okay to connect with their friends, or they're keeping to themselves? Are they talking to their family members, or they're keeping to themselves? And if they're not, is there a reason to it? So you want to have that conversation with them. And what we can observe is just all of this that we're seeing, perhaps a bit of mood changes, and we see a bit of like hygiene issues. But what is really going under, we still need to go back to talking to that person, right? How do you approach that person? Is really, again, have that conversation, talking.
Okay, we have another questions from the chat, the Q&A box.
Okay.
Is there any trusted website to check our anxiety or stress level that more accurate? I think this participant wants to know if they can self. How do we say that? Self-assessment. Yeah.
Self-assessment, yeah. Okay, thanks for that question. The one questionnaire that is most available for anyone, the public, is actually what we call the DASS, DASS. Some of you may be familiar, some of you maybe not. DASS stands for D, depression, A, anxiety, S, stress, and the last S is scale. So DASS, DASS is one of the most common one on the website. You can actually Google it, and then you get to do a test. But it actually only reflects on how you've been in the past 2 weeks. So it allows you to assess your depression, anxiety, and stress level generally. It doesn't mean that if you got a high score, it means you have the clinical depression. So it's not for you to diagnose yourself. It's just generally understanding, the level of depression, anxiety, and stress. Because to be diagnosed, you need to see a professional for it. Yeah. So that is what I think I can provide you, that you can sort of help to sort of monitor, if you want to monitor your progress, consider the depression, anxiety, and stress level. Generally, that is a good questionnaire that I can suggest you. But again, it's not to self-diagnose. It's not for diagnosing. It's to assess, to monitor. Yeah.
Okay. So I think one last question. Some work require long working periods. Some might find hard for them to seek for help, and some refuse to get help. What are the alternative way for these people to seek for help by not being judged by surrounding?
Okay. All right, thanks for the question. So looking at this, it's like someone who's going through a lot in their life. There's the work, and then perhaps, I believe, after work, a lot of like, say, family things that you need to settle, or your personal thing, and you're finding it hard on where to seek help. So there's something that's not going well, even though you're busy, you're doing a lot of things. And it perhaps looks to other people that you're just going through a daily life, right? But if you see that you are struggling, it's really going down to making the time, setting aside time to see what is it that you can start doing. And a good place to start is the CLABS that we talked about just now, right? So it doesn't need to take long. You don't need to do all CLABS at the same time, right? It can be just one of it. For example, I want to keep active. I choose to do A, right? I'm going to spend perhaps just 15 or 20 minutes of my day to do some gardening or to do some exercise, right? It doesn't need to be a long time taken out of your day. So it's really to sit down, look through your timetable. Where is it that you can slot in that break and think about what you can do or what you would like to try doing in that break. Okay.
All right. Before I forget, there is a contrast to what I want to say. Okay. Juan Zainab has been telling just now that she loves the presentation, but she hopes to be given the date or any info for next classes. I think it's your talk, I think. Do you have some online talks in the future?
We can plan on that for future talks, but right now at the moment we don't have. But thanks for showing your interest. It's I'm really glad that you find it helpful and you're looking for more.
Okay,
Pustaka will keep you posted, right? If you haven't, yeah, you know.
Yeah. So either it with Pustaka or by Columbia.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so I think there's no more question from the participant.
Yeah.
Okay, so my colleague has shared a feedback form link and attendance for your confirmation on the chat box. So please feel free to give your feedback on the talk this afternoon. We really appreciate that for our future improvement. All right, so we have come to the end of our session. On behalf of the organizer, Pustaka Negeri Sarawak, I would like to, and Columbia Asia, I would like to apologize for the weaknesses that we encountered throughout the session. We would like to thank you, all the participants and the viewers on our Pustaka channel, for your cooperation and for staying until the end of the session. Last but not least, my name is Nova Izan actually. I'm using my colleague screen. Her name is Lillian. Thank you. We'll see you again on next session. Stay safe, take care, and have a pleasant day. Thank you.
Thank you and take care.
Tersergam indah megah, menjadi kebanggaan kita, bukti wawasan dicita, maklumat dan pengetahuan, penuh terhimpun harta ilmu untuk kita terokan. Pustaka Negeri Sarawak, wadah ilmu untuk semua, bersama kita manfaatkannya. Pustaka Negeri Sarawak, berteknologi dan berusaha, berkhidmat ikhlas untuk kita. Pustaka Negeri Sarawak. Tersergam indah megah, menjadi kebanggaan kita, bukti wawasan dicita, maklumat dan pengetahuan, penuh terhimpun harta ilmu untuk kita taruhkan. Pustaka Negeri Sarawak, wadah ilmu untuk semua. Bersama kita manfaatkannya. Pustaka Negeri Sarawak, teknologi dan berusaha, berhikmat ikhlas untuk kita. Pustaka Negeri Sarawak.